Well, we've seen plenty of Eve's history through Down the Rabbit Hole, but we're not done yet. No, we need to do a little bit more to see what's up. We're almost done, y'all. Section 25. Everybody say hi, YouTube. Down the Rabbit Hole. Eve's history. Let's see what they've got for us today.
Players of EVE Online reckoned with the effects of these drastic changes made to New Eden's landscape. Crowd Control Productions continued work on their first-person shooter title, which they renamed to Project Nova, and in October of 2018, at a special event for EVE fans in Las Vegas, they allowed reviewers to play an early build of the game, both in its cooperative and competitive modes. Reports from reviewers were generally hopeful, with much of their articles discussing the history of CCP's first-person shooter endeavors, including the discarded Dust 514. But those who had the opportunity to test it also noted that the game, while enjoyable, would require something unique to draw a player base, something that was still missing from what was playable. Gaming journalist Joe Screbbles, writing for IGN, echoed other reports when he stated that, quote, "It's challenging, hectic, and, it must be said, unspectacular. What I played is an early build, so elements may change, but no matter how right it feels under the fingers, Nova doesn't quite connect in terms of excitement right now. Sound effects are oddly muted. A space magnum with exploding bullets shouldn't sound like my oven door closing. Enemies appear without fanfare and traipse around the gunmetal battlefield unthreateningly, and even the act of evacuating at the end of a round feels lacking in peril. Given that I've criticized Dust for exactly—
This is good. This is good. This is the kind of feedback that you should be giving the devs in the EVE Vanguard Discord, and I recommend. It's pretty funny, right? You know, it's a pretty good line. It's a good writer because you know it's a good writer because he elected emotion in me, right? It's a good story. Like I can go, yeah, that makes sense about the oven closing. It's super funny. This is what you should be doing. This is EVE Online, my friend. We're looking at their history. This is something you should go do in the EVE Vanguard Discord. EVE Vanguard is fun right now. It is, but it is an early alpha game. Okay, it is nowhere near done. It's going to be a couple years before it's actually finished and like competing with, let's say, Call of Duty or any of the other games that are coming out. So go check out. This is my call to the community every single time we talk about this. Go join the EVE Vanguard Discord. Go check them out. Go give them constructive feedback. If you're a fan of FPS games, even a little bit, go check it out. The Vanguard devs have stated that you don't have to play Vanguard if you play EVE Online because they understand that EVE Online players, they might not like to play FPS games. We'll just put it that way. Okay. I like what they're doing with Vanguard. What I've seen so far is fun and interesting. This kind of stuff is what that game needs. And I know I'm interested to see what happens with Nova because this doesn't look like Vanguard. So is this another scrap title? Is Vanguard their third FPS? Well, maybe third time's the charm, huh?
Opposite issue. It might seem a little damned if they do, damned if they don't, but I can't stop thinking that a solid foundation isn't quite enough at this point. CCP does have wider plans for Nova and even more hopes, but crucially, I don't see any evidence of them other than being told they could exist one day. It's promised that Nova will bring a level of customization to suit even EVE players, creating custom clone trooper builds piece by piece from hundreds of options. But what I see are the game's introductory classes, built more like the set heroes currently in vogue in FPS games.
You see that in Vanguard already, actually. The recent shown chipsets in Vanguard, they like put out a video on this on their YouTube, I think, or they showed it on a live stream where you could loot enemies on the ground and you'll get electronic pieces, components, whatever. You then out of the game can combine them into like circuit boards or whatever the heck, you know, and then put them in your gun, put them in the various things, and they have certain buffs and negative effects as well. So if you like have a chip that's better burst fire accuracy, maybe it makes so your scope sucks or a little bit, so it becomes more of a hip fire gun, right? So, right, yes, here's Johnny. Exactly. Good, by the way. I tried playing Tarkov. I'm not smart enough for Tarkov, dude. Okay. What I liked about all the good stuff about Tarkov is that it was very customizable, but I'll tell you, it was too customizable. Because in Tarkov, the main thing that I couldn't wrap my head around was all the different like bullet types and all the different various things that were going on. It made me feel very unsmart, okay? It made me feel very unsmart because you had to do exactly this ammo with exactly this thing. And then you had to have exactly this module with exactly this thing. What I'll tell you that I think Vanguard is doing better is the customization in Vanguard is a lot more like, hey, do you want to have it be a hip fire gun? Here's the buffs that are hip fire. Do you want to have a bit more of a one-tap sniper? Here's very clearly the ones that are one-tap sniper. That's my experience with it, okay? And this is all like through publicly shown things from what I've seen, right? Because in Tarkov, it was like, here's some 7 ammo choices, and here's 7 attachment choices. There's another 12 attachment areas. Have fun. And I'm like, what is this? I'm not reading all this, dude. I'm just going to go on YouTube and find someone smarter than me and do this. And even then, I was like, this is too much work. I think Vanguard lets you still, at least in its current form, we'll see, lets you have that customization without being so complex, right? Without being so crazy. You know, so Liam, if it's 1 a.m. in Australia for you, God bless you. Go to sleep. We want you to get some good sleep. We'll see you on the next stream. Thank you very much, my friend. Yeah. Let's see it. We're still, what the heck? Muted? Hello? Okay. Hey, let's listen to it again.
Set heroes currently in vogue in FPS games. End quote. The pressure on the company to release a popular title would only increase with time. On September 6, 2018, Crowd Control Productions was bought by another company named Pearl Abyss.
When was that? What was the date?
2018, Crowd Control Productions.
2018. I like how it fades it in like it's the final boss, because it kind of is, right? Pearl Abyss, 2018. So it's been 8 years. 8 years. This is going to cause a lot of controversy. I think that since the buy of Pearl Abyss, EVE Online is in a better place. I think it's better. I know that a lot of people are going to disagree with me there. I think that's okay. Because while Pearl Abyss is not my favorite parent company, being very cash heavy, the cash and the like microtransactions and the change to the game, what I have seen the EVE devs do is if they swing a pendulum in one direction and it's too much and there's a lot of player outcry, they're really good at like pulling it back. Not a lot, but enough. Like everyone talks about, and I'm sure we're going to talk about the pack where you could like get a fully fit retriever for whatever. They removed that because there was a lot of player outcry, and they fixed that. You know, so a company can't make a better game if it's not making money. So you need to make money. So you have to make money. You know, so it absolutely has to make money. But if the company is all about making money, then there's a problem, right? Because then they're not going to make a great video game. So there has to be a balance there between we need revenue coming in and we need to make something that people enjoy, because if people are enjoying the game, they'll spend money on the game, right? Like I always say, if you're enjoying something, go buy it. Like I always say to people, the best way to play EVE Online is, as a working adult, is 2 Omega accounts, 2. Because, and you pay for them with the 3-month Omega deal and use my code Loru at checkout. You get a sale. I get a cut. Thank you very much. Code LORU. Thank you. And then you end up paying for like $15 a month for Omega. And if you do 2 accounts, it's $30 a month. Working adults, we can spend $30. We totally can. That's the best way to do it, I think. So definitely a delicate balance. Definitely. Let's see what they have to say about Pearl Abyss. 8 years. 8 years.
Was bought by another company named Pearl Abyss, a game publisher known for the popular MMO title Black Desert Online. Players were nervous.
I've never played BDO. Whenever I kind of see anime waifu in all the art, I don't really care, because it ends up, is this the point of the game, is to like have a pretty character you like look at? I don't know. I've never played the game. What I've seen of the game is it's very combo skill focused, like a deeper Final Fantasy 14. Maybe the game's good. I've never played it. It just doesn't appeal to me. These anime games are not for me, right? I'm not an anime person. One of my favorite TV shows of all time, and I say TV shows, not anime, is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Okay, because that's not a show. That transcends media and becomes like art. Like it's something bigger. I don't know how to describe it. It's, you watch that show, and every time I watch the show, I learn about like life somehow. You know, like I watched when I was like 22, and I'm 35. I'm 36. I don't remember my age now, Chad. Once you pass 33, does it really matter? Sheesh. And it's just crazy. Black Desert was fun until you hit the very large wall. Really, there it is. Interesting, for sure. FMA is philosophical. Yeah, Blue Gray. Sure, yes. It's not like just a TV show. It's something more crazy. So I played Black Desert before EVE. It's really a time-consumer MMO. Because I don't like, and I know EVE players are, I know it's funny having an EVE Online player myself say, I don't like a game that's just a grind. But you know, EVE is a game, we've said this a billion times, EVE Online is a really excellent game that rewards your time investment because primarily of the skill tree. Because I can say, you know what, in a couple weeks, I want to go fly that ship. We just finished training up Draugrs, the Triglavian command destroyer. I've been eyeing the Draugr for a long time. So what I did was I kept slowly training it up, and now I have Precursor Destroyer 1. And now I can go fly this. And it took me a couple weeks, but I was able, you know what, I'm going to go for that. And I was able to go do my other activities and live my life and hang out with my wife while the knowledge of, in a couple weeks, I'll be able to fly this ship. That's really cool. In a lot of these other MMOs, there isn't this like real-time reward, and you have to be in the game grinding to do the thing. And I don't really like that, right? So BDO and Final Fantasy 14 are nothing alike. I'm talking purely on the combat, where Final Fantasy has these very skill-based focused things, and then BDO took that system and then made it more deep with more combos, is my understanding. But correct me if I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong because the game is a anime waifu game that I'm not going to play. Go for Cowboy Bebop Real Classic. Of course, Cowboy Bebop, dude. Of course. So definitely check out Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, because there's FMA, which is like filler towards the end of the thing, and I don't like it. I don't like it nearly as much. If I don't like it at all, honestly. And then there's Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is the proper one, in my opinion. So let's keep listening to what they say. Let's keep listening to what they say.
Black Desert Online utilized a radically different monetization strategy compared to EVE Online, eschewing the subscription-based model in favor of the now far more popular free-to-play method, with numerous microtransactions, selling in-game items such as weapons, consumables, cosmetics, and, most importantly, loot boxes.
Selling weapons, armor. These have stats on them. These are not cosmetic. This is a pay-to-win thing. And loot boxes. Yo, I'm out. I'm out, dude. Skins? Okay. Okay. It's fair. If there's stats on these, Because I played Guild Wars 2 a lot. Guild Wars 2 was fun. But there was also some pretty egregious monetization crap. There were some loot boxes there, too. Loot boxes are the worst. Loot boxes might be the worst thing to ever happen to gaming because they're so pro-company and not pro-consumer at all. 1,000% pay to win? Yeah. Yeah.
By targeting a small number of players willing to spend exorbitant amounts of money on microtransactions called
opening 50+2 gift boxes. Opening the luxury box. Black Desert Online box opening. So crazy, dude. Oh, man. Look at me spending my money. You know, it's... And look, this content gets eyeballs. I mean, some eyeballs, whatever. We've done we did a video where we did mutaplasmids. We did like 10 billion in mutas, but that wasn't a loot box. Like I earned the items, I bought the items, I made the loot. But I like mutaplasmids in EVE Online because you roll for better stats, but you can acquire all the items just in game by playing the game, right? So I don't pay a shop for a present box and then open it and might get an item. You know, it's a different thing entirely. It really is. So it's aggressive. Okay. Well, so a lot more. These titles aren't good enough, chat. I'm telling you, it's the marketer in me. These are not good YouTube titles. Come talk to me. I'll help you with your YouTube titles. Okay.
Called whales by the industry, video game publishers have managed to drastically increase their profit margins, introducing them even into full-priced games to.
It's the reason I stopped playing Overwatch. I thought Overwatch was a decent game. I was who's the pink-haired chick with the AoE laser? Her ultimate like sucks in stuff. I haven't played it in years. That was my main. I loved being tanks in those games and like support players to help my team. I love being those. I play either the tank or the flanker. I was really good at Tracer. I was really like Zarya. Yeah. I was playing Zarya. I wanted to call it Zorro. It's been so long. I was really good at I was decent at tanking or like being a Tracer, and I would flank. I couldn't get Genji. I never really figured out Genji, whatever. But I was pretty good at Tracer. I would like kill off the Mercy and then like warp back, whatever. But I stopped playing because of this. Man, so toxic. Just so toxic. The worst, right? And I saw they put loot boxes into Overwatch 2. Why? Because it's not making any money. Why would you play Overwatch if you can play Marvel Rivals, chat, right?
Increase their revenue, and the most lucrative method of selling in-game items proved to be loot boxes. Rather than simply buying the items that they wanted outright, players in contemporary games instead were offered these boxes, which would contain a random item or set of items, with more desirable items being rarer and a chance for duplicates that the player already owned. This would attract not only those with significant disposable income, but gambling addicts as well. Further,
I've had Raid Shadow Legends reach out to me a couple times with a life-changing amount of money for me to do streams and videos. And I'm not doing it because before I always accept sponsors, I check out the game. I look at what other people are playing. I don't think this is a video game. I think it's a storefront, you know? And my priority is you all, the viewer, and I want to give you the best value. And I don't think this is a video game, period. I think it's a storefront disguised as a video game, right? It's just, thank you. And I know that if I take a sponsorship like that, I will lose your trust. And I will take sponsors at some point, Trent. We have a lot reaching out to me now that I'm like growing. Before it was 0, now it's like 5. In 6 months it'll be 10, right? You know, I'll take sponsors at some point. I actually had last year we had Factor 75 sponsor stuff, and they were pretty good to me. You know, we had a lot of sales. We had more sales than any other content creators my size at the time. We were less than half our size now, you know, so craziness. So yes and no, McCavity, because as a marketer, I know I've been doing marketing for almost 11 years now. I know that trust is actually a currency you can't buy, but can pay to lose, right? So they might have given me tens of thousands of dollars, and it was tens of thousands, but it's not worth losing the viewers. It's not worth losing the trust here, because I hear you, McCavity. I'm a big proponent in how you do something is just as important as what you do, that the ends do not justify the means, right? That is what psychopaths say, you know? Like, I screwed everyone and I got the money and I got the bag, but I lost my reputation. Like, I don't think it's worth it. So, and I know what you're saying, McCavity, that like, look, if they're offering you, you know, a lot of money, just get the bag. I'd rather have your respect, to be honest. I'll figure out the bag myself, Jen. You know, we had a lot of people saying, how do we support the brand? Watch the videos, enjoy the videos. The content's free. Those that support on Patreon get extra. That's what we do. That's what we do. So, you know. Gang is too easy to kill massive ships, a lot of ISK. Well, I mean, in any MMO, if you have a group, that's that. So, you know, you cannot play Eveline with a controller. No. Not a good idea.
The pool of whales.
No.
To conceal the chance-based nature of these rewards and to avoid various countries' gambling regulations, they would often be veiled or obfuscated in some way, with these obfuscations growing more convoluted as time passed. But this method of monetization, to many players, was anathema to the new Eden that they knew.
Agreed.
One of the most appealing aspects of the game was the fully player-driven economy, in which every object collected, crafted, and used was made by a long supply chain of players, and
Agreed.
to damage that supply chain through the sale of microtransactions would potentially destroy what made the game so appealing. This was a fear that had been harbored ever since the internal...
Those were some really cool shots. Look at this. Have y'all ever seen an Athenor moon mine pop? Look at this. Pop, that's how it starts. Isn't that cool? And then all the little nodes keep pulsing out from there. Look at that. Okay, and then we get this look at this fleet. This is, look at it, like scoops around. It's a really sick shot. It's really cool, man. You know, thank you, friendly. Thank you for that. Alan, thank you. 07 to you. Yes. And maybe they are blue-gray. Let's talk about this. This is why I always say give constructive criticism to what the devs are doing. Because if you see the devs doing a lot of stuff that you don't agree with, then you can 1,000% come in and give feedback. And I believe the devs will like walk back negative stuff like that. So Gothalion picked it up, but he used in-game gold to purchase a BattleNet balance. I don't know what you mean, Warling. Did we hit eight? I'm not sure what you mean, Warling. Did we hit 8.4? 8.4 on Twitch, baby. Let's go. Yeah. Look what Integrity does. I respect the hell out of Gothalion, by the way. I like most of his takes. Most. Like every person, you're never going to agree with everything they say. Just like you'll never agree with everything I say, and that's all right. You know what I'm saying? Thank you, Elchef. Thank you for 8.4 on Twitch, you know? So it's, if EVE Online adds buyable ships through Plex, I will tell you, and we've talked about this, that EVE Online does pay to win. And there is pay-to-win elements better than almost any other game I've ever seen, because if this is a torrent, if I suck at flying and navigation and I go into a bad area and I die, if I pay for this torrent with money and I buy this ship and I go and I get ganked, most of the value of the ship is destroyed most of the time, right? The permanence in EVE is not so permanent. Like we've talked about this a lot. In World of Warcraft, if you buy a WoW token and you use the WoW token to buy in-game golds, and you use that in-game gold to buy a DKP run, and you use that DKP run to get a sword you like, you have that cosmetic forever, right? So you don't lose anything, because World of Warcraft, there's permanence. It is permanent. Right now, the stats on that sword, or whatever it is, obviously won't be viable in 2 years, which is one of EVE Online's powers. But it's just better in EVE Online because you don't pay for a ship. You pay for basically like a carnival ticket to whatever the ship gives you access to, right? Now it's up to you whether you go to a carnival, you go to one of those little stands where you toss the hoop. You still have to be good at hoop tossing, right? If you suck at hoop tossing and you get none of the hoops on, then you don't get the prize. It's the same in EVE. You can swipe a credit card to buy a ship, to buy Plex, to get ISK, to buy the ship. You can. But if you suck, you'll die. And then there it is. And then you won't get your stuff, right? So we're all working adults. I think it makes sense to be able to buy stuff in a video game. The problem is how much. We'll see. So you say the Darkmoon Fair, yes, sir. You know what I'm saying? That's right. The only thing CCP did that was bad was the paid boosters. They removed them. I agree, Timer. And I think they also let you buy a retriever, fully fit or something like that. And they removed that. It was some kind of mining barge. It might not have been the retriever itself. So you could already basically buy ships with Plex, buy Plex, sell Plex, and buy and fit ship. Yes, that is what you can do. But there is a big difference between, hey, give us $10 and you get a fully fit retriever versus buy a Plex and then it's up to the player to choose. I think that degree of separation is perfectly fine. But if it's, hey, buy a Thrasher fully fit, hey, buy a Interdictor fully fit, because then the moment you have one buy fully fit ship, the monetization people at Pearl Abyss are going to say, do that for every ship. See, it's a slippery slope. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And even if it was badly fit, it doesn't matter. But if this is also part of the thing. If it's badly fit and a bunch of people buy that, they're just going to undock in space and do that. And even if it's badly fit, that encourages bad fits, which I don't like. So, correct. An Archon, correct. Yeah. So let's see what they have to say.
Made the game so appealing. This was a fear that had been harbored ever since the internal magazine with the title Greed is Good was leaked, where the company had written extensively about their introduction into the game.
Yes.
While EVE Online could technically now be played for free by new players, the vast majority of content was locked behind a paid subscription fee, and most of the other games that still utilized a subscription fee had been released at around the same time as EVE Online. A game that had once been a pioneer in gaming technology now seemed outdated, at least from a business perspective. Some items available for purchase with real money had already been introduced, such as skill extractors, but the greatest fear of the player base was that the company would move beyond these smaller items and start selling the most vital item in the game: ships.
Yep.
More than tools, ships were a social item as well, and represented great strides for player progression, with larger and stronger ships often a point of pride. One of the greatest leaps for many new players was moving from a venture, a small introductory mining ship, to a mining barge. This early goal is so ubiquitous that new players will often fall for scams involving such barges.
Yep.
With Pearl Abyss's purchase of CCP Games, the possibility of selling such ships, and therefore the destruction of the player economy as the players knew it, seemed much closer than ever before. The role that Crowd Control Productions would take was not immediately clear. An article by Chris.
They bought them for $500 million almost. Wow, dude. Wow. Amazing. I mean, I knew it was a lot of money, but sheesh. They're from South Korea. I didn't know that. Cool. Yep. Title was pulled in over 300 million in revenue. Currently boasts over 10 million registered users around the world. Is that BDO has 300 million? So he was talking about this greed is good thing. Okay. We saw in a past episode of Down the Rabbit Hole that what had happened is an internal memo of CCP Games had leaked and basically was horrible. If you think you know how bad it was worse. Take how bad you think it was and like triple it. Okay, it was extremely bad. It was all about milking the player base, and this was before Pearl Abyss even bought them. So this was not good. And I can tell you though that we're not really seeing that kind of toxicity play out. we're not really seeing that kind of toxicity play out because I think the community outcry was enough to push back on that kind of ideology. Something like that, Kasich. Yeah. Here's a harsh reality of video games. Okay, champ? I don't have any more tissues, dude. What the heck? Here's a harsh reality of video games. If the game isn't fun, it won't sell. But sometimes fun games don't sell. It's both. A lot of indie titles are interesting and fun and cool, but there's not the right marketing, not the right messaging. That's where I come in, actually. And it's something I think, by the way, I think EVE Online has that problem where there's a lot of the publicly available information is not consumable by it's hard to consume EVE if you don't know about EVE because the publicly available stuff is, in my opinion, not packaged as it could be. When Pearl Abyss bought the game, there was a lot of these fears about the monetization being increased or changed or whatever the heck. And I think you've seen a lot of changes to EVE. For example, the Skinner system was way more egregious with how much Plex it cost than I thought it would. I think the Skinner system's a good system where you can take a ship and you can make a skin. We have our Midas skin. This is our Torrent skin with red and black and gold, looking real sick. I love this. We have our Under the Radar skins, which are just black on black with just a little bit of red on where the name of the stuff is. Nice and shiny, looking real good, okay? This all costs Plex. The whole thing is a lot of Plex to do this. And I like that they're more exclusive because of the Plex cost, but it's just a lot of Plex. It's a little bit too much, in my opinion, a little bit too much. And you can argue that you don't have to do this. You don't have to do any of this. Sure. Okay. I don't know what's up with the graphical bug coming in here, CCP Games, but I understand that you don't have to do any of this. But there's something to be said about what's too much. And I think that the Skinner system was it was closer to too much Plex, too much ISK than it was not enough. Right. And that's kind of what they wanted it to be. Right. Like I came in here, I fly an Octator all the time. So I made a custom skin with that is like a skull on the freaking engine, and it's like a dark green, matte black. I'm really, really proud of the skin. Looks awesome. Okay. One of y'all, Inferno made me a skin for our Blackbird, Crimson Loru. Look at that. It's a Blackbird skin with the skull. This is sick, right? Wouldn't it be nice if this was more available? And it didn't cost like so much Plex? Yes. Too much Plex. So correct. And the skin should cost more than the hull, I think, Lord Mullen. I think the Plex, I think the skin should cost more than the hull of the ship. But I do think right now it's too much. They got to rein in a little bit. Are they gonna? Probably not, because I think the Skinner system is the reason that the Plex inflation has been going on. Also, obviously, the real world costs of things right now are very high. But in recent years, 2 years ago, Plex was at 4 something, high 4s, closer to 5. And then 1 year ago, it was close to 5. And then the Skinner system was introduced, like right about here? And then, because now you had a system in game. You have a system in game that costs Plex, and it was not there a year ago. Now you have a system in game that costs Plex. Of course, it's going to increase the Plex cost because now there's another thing costing Plex. And now, look, what is it now? We're chilling at 6 million. This is a big deal. This makes everything in game more expensive. So it's not a bad thing, the Skinner system. Don't misunderstand me. It's not a bad thing, but it is something I think that costs too much right now in terms of Plex. So we can give this constructive feedback to CCP Games in the EVE Online Discord. And as long as it's constructive, man, they've shown that they'll listen. Look at the patch notes yesterday and today. This is in mid-March that we're doing this. So the big patch just came out. Big patch. It might have been the best patch they've ever done. So we'll see about it. So Pearl and CCP are making a lot more money selling Plex 4 skins. Yes, Defiance, correct. And that's a good thing, by the way. So ads in game have bad experience. I agree with that, Dark. I wouldn't necessarily have ads in game for sure. Hopefully with better money from increased fleets, they will relieve the cost. It will never be cheap due to the required fuel costs. Yes. Plex has seen a consistent rise beyond Skinner. Skinner has made the rise faster by no means, but by no means is it the sole reason. Oh, for sure, it's inclined, 100%. Skinner is not the sole reason, but they're all contributing factors, for sure. All right, so this guy's talking about Pearl Abyss. Let's see.
CCP will continue to operate independently as a developer from its studios in Reykjavik, London, and Shanghai, while Pearl integrates the Icelandic outfit's development and publishing expertise into its own pipeline. End quote. Less than 3 months after Pearl Abyss acquired Crowd Control Productions, Project Nova's webpage was altered with a statement. It read in part, with familiar reassuring corporate prose and cliches, quote, "Over the course of Project Nova's development, we conducted a number of player research sessions with external partners, tirelessly playtested the game internally, and brought community stalwarts in to help us evaluate the project. Now, after taking all this research and feedback into account, we see that the gameplay experience in its current form does not live up to our original vision and would not achieve our ambitious goals for this project. As a result, we will not be moving forward with the upcoming invite-only alpha until further notice. We hope..."
As a former corporate slave myself, let me give you what this actually means. Let's cut through the CEO marketing speak. We looked at the game. We saw game no good. We no put out good game. That's it. That's it, dude. Look. Project Nova was the second FPS that CCP Games developed. And the reality is it costs a lot of money to make a game. And we saw that Oz said this too on one of his recent MER things. The bulk of the money that game studios make is actually when new games launch. Not just expansions. You might think, oh, the expansion comes out. That brings in a lot of new players. But new games have fresh audiences. This is also a marketing and sales principle. That if EVE Online's audience is here, it's called TAM, total addressable market, total audience measure. There's a lot of different ways to put it. What it means is like, if all of EVE, if all the potential EVE players are this bubble, this game might have been, think of like another circle. I have a tool for this. If this is all of EVE's market, this game might have been also these people. You can see that some of it intersects, right? But not all of it. And I see that's a little dirty, chance. We're going to get rid of that on the screen. So, but a lot, I think this might have actually been is if this is EVE's audience, they thought, hey, how much is the overlap? Maybe it was something like this, where it was not even close to the amount. And they decided to can it. When a new boss comes in, you expect some axe, and the weakest link of the chain gets axed typically. That was this. So I don't think this is a bad thing. I'm actually glad that they axed this project early, because then less money was spent on it. So then we were able to move forward. And you're going to see a lot of these assets probably used in Vanguard. So does this give you hope for what? Should you care about Vanguard? A Pearl Abyss axed Nova? Yes. Because you can assume that because Vanguard is in development the way it is, that we're moving forward in such a way that the Pearl Abyss overlords are okay with it now. That we're now in a monetary state that we're good. And by the way, we've been tracking the quarterly earnings through the Oz report. Definitely go give Oz a follow, chat. Oz does great work. We've been tracking it through Oz and through our own investigations. Q4 last year might have been EVE Online's best quarter ever in terms of income, revenue for the company. It might have been really awesome. So it's doing really good, and we just got to keep going. So, you know. The app version of EVE Echoes was bad, pay to win-ish. You know, I haven't ever played EVE Echoes. I might play it on stream one time for y'all just for you to see it, and then we'll see about it. So let's keep on looking.
You understand that we need to take a step back and return to the drawing board, where we will spend more time figuring out how all this hard work can translate into something better and more meaningful for the EVE universe. Remaining true to our vision of Project Nova's future in connection with EVE is essential. Project Nova continues to evolve, and we remain committed to delivering a high-quality, team-based shooter experience to EVE Online fans, while exploring new and exciting opportunities to integrate the two games. CCP is in no rush to release Project Nova until we're satisfied it provides a rock-solid gameplay experience and visuals to match. End quote. Though,
and that makes sense. This is something that... Video games are weird, right? A writer writes a book, and it's basically up to the writer and their editors and their publisher. There's a much smaller team. Video games nowadays are so big that people expect a world and a whole thing. And I mean, they've also said, look at Vanguard, look at how awesome it is, look at how great it is, you know. But you can actually see that EVE Echoes coming out being a mostly pay-to-win game might actually be a good thing for EVE Online. Follow me here. EVE Echoes has a lot of pay-to-win elements, but that's actually expected in the mobile market, especially in the East. A lot of China, Japan, Philippines. they're actually used to pay to win, and it's part of the culture that if it's not pay to win, it's typically not played. It's very different out here in the West. Pay to win is a bad thing. I don't like it. I don't think it's good. But out there, it is accepted. We'll just put it that way. It's not stigmatized. I think that's the best way to put it. So releasing Eve Echoes and having it be mostly pay to win lets the East kind of have its pay to win box, right? But then Eve Online is not as much pay to win. So instead of having those features that were in Eve Echoes, all the pay to win stuff there, be in Eve Online, they just made their own game. So they're making money with this product, which is then funding, hopefully, Vanguard, Frontier, etc., all the other things. Oh, we've been talking about Vanguard the whole freaking stream, Defiance. There's been not a lot of news on Vanguard recently. They had a live stream the other day, I think, where they were showing some stuff. I'm getting a lot of ads for this new Bleach game, chat. I might have to check it out. I don't really do fighting games unless it's like Super Smash Bros. But I am a big fan of Bleach, and that new Bleach game looks sick. Yeah, 8 days ago they did a fireside chat, and it was pretty interesting. They were just talking about stuff, but you can't play the game right now, okay? I always tell you, and I recommend, go join the Discord, be a part of the discussion, okay? What I've played so far in Vanguard is fun. It's fun. Snappy, solid shooter, enjoyable. I like the direction they're taking. I think the UI is actually one of the main parts, but I love that it's bound to your gun. It's super fun. I really like that. Definitely go check out Eve Vanguard, chat. We've been talking about it for most of this video, so yeah.
Crowd Control Productions had released multiple standalone single-player experiences over the years. Eve players remembered the company's failures much more
I would have loved
prominently,
to do something like that,
in
dude.
large part due to their comparatively high profiles.
This looks fun.
As it was, the only major product that had managed to survive to that time was EVE Online.
Yep.
Their VR space combat game, EVE Valkyrie, had been released on March 28, 2016,
Rest in
but
power.
further development was halted only a year and a half later, despite what Rock Paper Shotgun called bullishness about VR only 7 months before the shutdown. EVE Online continued to be the only public-facing project that provided returns for Crowd Control Productions, and
I really wish that this had worked out, because this is sick. This is sick. And it's not even... I think CCP Games' only failure at a macro sense was being so ahead of the curve that they were too far ahead of the curve, okay? Valkyrie was only VR. Why isn't this a controller game? Why isn't this something that you could do on a controller? That is a big F from Loru, okay? Because you can have a cutting-edge game that is for VR and then also have it be for controller. And this was back when VR was launching, so there wasn't a lot of people that had those devices. You know, so there's no reason that the technology today could do it. Totally. It eventually came to not require VR, but it was dead maintenance. But then there it is, right? So one of my biggest things about business is you have to start with, you have to have two thoughts in your head at like the same time. This is like a Patrick Rothfuss thing from Name of the Wind. You literally have to be able to have two realities in your head at like the same time. One of my favorite books, by the way. Patrick Rothfuss, Brandon Sanderson, great authors. Go read their books. Awesome. You have to be able to understand that companies test stuff and they try new things to see if something sticks, because if it sticks, they're the first and then they win. But sometimes it don't stick. Like Valkyrie. Sometimes don't work. If it worked, it would have been incredible and fantastic, and they would have been the best VR game, but VR, a capital V, capital R, didn't work. Wasn't a thing. And I could have told you it wasn't, but see, a lot of people were saying that it would. It's kind of like Facebook. Before Facebook, you would have never said that would have been a thing, but because it was successful, now everybody's making a Facebook, right? So when we look at failed titles like Valkyrie, like Nova, like these other things, you could argue that, like, chat, I can tell it's spring because I am allergy boy. I want to sneeze all day. My nose is itchy. Goodness gracious. So, sheesh. I think that you need to understand that companies will continue to put out new products to test the market. Thank you. And not all of them have to work. Only one of them has to work. EVE Online is working. We'll see. Okay. People like to crap on CCP games. They have all these failed titles, right? So, oh my God, like my nose is like itchy. I could hear my heater on over there. So, and it's just making me itchy. So, remake Just 514. They are. It's called EVE Vanguard. And it's honestly, so far, it's super fun. If Just 514 wasn't on PlayStation, it would have taken off. Totally agree. Totally agree. They had to do that because of the publishing rights. Because Just 514 was pre-Pearl Abyss. I bluntly think CCP Games didn't have the money to publish Dust 514 on PC because, or at least they got a better deal to put it on PS3, which ultimately killed the game, but at least they put the game out. I think that Vanguard has the potential to be a good FPS. I don't know if it'll ever rival Call of Duty. We'll see. I think it'll be a good FPS, just like I think eFrontier will be a good game. And we'll talk about eFrontier in another video. We have a lot to talk about since they changed their NDA. The CEO of CCP Games, Helmar, recently said that EVE Online and eFrontier are basically like two different cities. Like EVE Online is New York, and Frontier is like, I don't know what city he said, but he said like a different city. So they're still in the same like world, but they're in different cities. Does that make sense? They have like different play styles and all that stuff. So can we play? Vanguard right now is closed to play, but they have a lot of events. If you join their Discord, you can keep up on when their playable alphas is. Right? You failed to learn from your failures. I don't think they have failed to learn, but yes, they have failures, and I hope they learn from them for sure. So Frontier is tons of good stuff, but layered onto crypto nonsense. I don't think it's crypto nonsense. A lot of people, this is not the subject of this video. We'll talk about eFrontier very soon because they recently amended the NDA. What I'll tell you in a short thing is this. There has never been a successful Web3 game, but just like Valkyrie, they're going to try to do something first, and if it works, they'll be the first. If it doesn't, then we'll talk about it. Obviously, my priority is all of you, Chan. And if it's some weird thing that is, if it's like Raid Shadow Legends, where it's not a game, it's a storefront, then we'll talk about it. I can say this now. I've played Frontier. Game's fun. Game's interesting. Okay? Those of you that have played Frontier, listen to people that are practitioners that have actually been in the game. The vocal minority chat that's on Reddit that's like, game bad. They probably haven't played the game. So, or at least they played the game without actually giving it a try. Okay? So, you know. We'll see, Alrisen. We'll see. Hyped to hear your thoughts on Frontier, for sure. I can tell you, game good, don't pre-order. That's my macro thoughts on Frontier. Game good, don't buy it. It's an early alpha. It's going to take years. God knows how many years to actually play the game. It might be 5 years. MMOs are like 5 years. So I'm assuming it's like 5 years. So maybe in like 2 or 3 years, you can pre-order the game and like be able to play the closed betas, whatever. But right now, is it worth buying it to play it? No, I don't really think so. Could you buy it to play it? Sure. But I always say, don't pre-order games. I'll pre-order the game, and then I'll give you my thoughts on it. We'll have that video soon.
Combat game, EVE Valkyrie, had been released on March 28, 2016, but further development was halted only a year and a half later, despite what Rock Paper Shotgun called bullishness about VR only 7 months before the shutdown.
For sure.
EVE Online continued to be the only public-facing project that provided returns for Crowd Control Productions, and though
awesome.
It was public knowledge that the company had been hiring staff for a new action massively multiplayer online game, excitement for anything except EVE Online had long since been dampened, and even that excitement was being tempered by trepidation.
Sure.
This pattern continued when, on February 17, 2020, Massively OP published an article titled "Pearl Abyss had a strong Q4 2019, but CCP's EVE spin-off Project Nova is officially cancelled." In it, they described an investor call that stated that Project Nova was officially cancelled, and that a Dust 514 veterans group had been informed by the project's game director that, quote, "We are evolving the scope of Nova beyond our previous plans for early access, and the development will continue in our London studio. I am personally optimistic about this, but also wistful. That also means that the Project Nova codename is retired, and the London team will find a new one. This is
a good thing. A lot of people that have not worked in a corporate job and have not had to deal with budgets in the millions are not going to understand why this is a good thing. It sucks that those workers were laid off. It sucks that the game was canceled and the community had all this hype. But sometimes you have to kill something in order for the actual moneymakers to live. Because as we've said, the game studio has to survive first in order to make better games. And sometimes you have some work, you go forward, the thing happens, and then, you know, it's not meeting expectations and they got bought. And you know, their corporate overlords came in and they said, show me the P&L. Profit and loss sheet, or COGS, some people call it, cost of goods sold, right? Whatever. It's probably a P&L because it's an online thing. It's a not literal physical product. Anyway, show me the P&L. Yeah, it's costing us this much. How much is it making? It's really not. Cut it. That's how it goes. It's that cold, that simple. And you might say that's not good. I got to tell you, chat, sometimes you need somebody to come in with a knife and start cutting, because the budget has to be good in order for the rest of the products to thrive. And look how good EVE Online's doing now. Game's in the best place it's ever been. We had one of the best patches ever the other day, with all the drone updates and the Ansible X PvP and all this other stuff going on, and all the PI updates and the mining. Awesome stuff. So, and very awesome. So I like how Titan was killed so Overwatch could be born. There it is. There it is. Pruning. And look how much of this kind of looks like Vanguard. A lot, dude. So we had to take a step. Look, Nova's canceled. We have no plans on another FPS, whatever. Vanguard, 8 years later. I think Vanguard has the potential to be good. We will see.
1-4 Veterans Group had been informed by the project's game director that
we already heard
the
this.
development wistful. This is not a fiscal decision. The London team had been working on very interesting ideas.
Yes, it is. Look, yes, it is. Is it a fiscal decision to cancel the game right after the game gets bought by a new studio? Yeah. This is what we call marketing speak. I, as a marketer, recognize that sometimes companies say things that are adjacent to the truth. You can call it a lie, sure. You know that I try not to do these whenever I can. All of my YouTube titles, by the way, for example, the recent YouTube video that we put out are like 4 things in the patch that change everything. One of the comments was like, clickbait title. No, we literally say, here's the 4 things that change it. I actually talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Sheesh. So, yeah, McCavity, it's more like this. They might say that I personally am optimistic about this. I'm also wistful. It means that Project Nova codename is retired and the London team will find a new one. This is not a fiscal decision. The this in that sentence could mean a lot of stuff. More close to what it is, an Archon. Yeah. It's more about everything we do in the world is about optics. I might be authoritative to some of you because I have all these subs and these follows, whatever, but that's just perceived authority. Okay. You just perceive that I have authority. I'm just the dude. I'm just some guy playing EVE and making guides. Now I'm putting the work in. Don't get it twisted. I'm putting the work in. I might have earned some of your allegiance, let's say, whatever, fandom, whatever. But I'm still just a person. You cut me, I bleed, just like anybody else. You know, sheesh. I like tacos. I'm like you, you know. I'm not running for office. So it started to sound like a politics speech. Rock, flag, and eagle, right, Charlie? You know, and the always sunny enjoyers, right? My point is, when you see statements like this, and a game is getting canceled, and you have to look at like what's happening. And this is why I'm really glad that we're doing this. Perlibus comes in and buys CCP games. They do by their own words, a check, an internal audit of like the player, wants and needs for Project Nova. And then they cancel the game after they say, hey, we're not going to be updating the game for the foreseeable future. And then they cancel it and they say it's not a fiscal decision. Listen, maybe this is this is about the London team finding a new office, right? So while technically, see what I'm saying? Maybe this is what they're referring to legally speaking, but you and I, the common man, understand that this is a financial decision. Does that make sense? I hope so.
Ideas and concepts, and adding them to a shooter sounds very promising to me. End quote. With the public knowledge that Black Desert Online was making 6.5 times the revenue of EVE Online, players and onlookers were nervous about Pearl Abyss's outlook on the game. But inside the game world itself, a long period of peace had established itself, and the leaders of every faction knew that if they were to keep their members entertained and playing for them, then something would have to change. Even if the game's system seemed uncompromising, every denizen of New Eden knew that war was inevitable, and when it began, the scale would be unprecedented.
God, I love these freaking cliffhangers, dude. We're going to do the next episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. We'll do episode 26. Later. Incredible stuff. I love seeing this history. Great discussions today. And if you want to sub for more, you sub right here. And if you want the full Down the Rabbit Hole reaction playlist, the best second monitor content out there, it's right here. Make sure you check it out. We'll see you in the next video, y'all. Thanks very, very much.